Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Tuesday night, 8 p.m, the Online Darts Live Lounge returns. Sorry, we are 24 hours late, but it was a little bit manic yesterday. But we are here to bring you up to date with everything that's gone on in the world of darts, especially the UK Open. That final we will come on to shortly. But tonight, I am joined by Dan and Cam. Good evening, gents. How are we?
Good. Very well, mate. Very well. Good to be on. As you can probably tell, my voice is still suffering the after effects of the last few days. But everyone can enjoy listening to that as we go along. Dan's got his Mervyn King shirt on that he took with him all the way down to mine and never wore at any point.
I would have had it on if and I'm no spike without spoiling anything. If Merv had got a bit deeper in the tournament, I might have had an opportunity to get it worn and get it put on. But no, really good. I'm quite excited that I suppose the two major talking points of the week are obviously the UK Open and last week's Premier League, both of which I think like all three of us were in the building for all of it. So a bit interesting to talk about darts that we were in the room for rather than seeing on the telly. It's a bit different because if you watch it on the TV, you're so much more aware, I think, anyway, of statistics and what's going on and averages and doubling percentages because that information's fed to you all the time. Bit different when you're in the room. You feel much more about sort of the atmosphere and the swing of the game and the feeling in the room. But yeah, really, it's been a tremendous week in darts for me. So yeah, really good to be along and talk about it all.
Absolutely. Gob's apologies. Gob's playing darts. He is at the Prince of Wales in Ilkeston with Mace. I'm sure they'll have us on at some point as well. But let's jump into the chat room. Tommy, Jamie, ABM, how we doing? Harry, Andrew, how do? HGV, Zane, Matador, how we doing? Matador says live land in Ipswich on the telly. What a night. Mark is in, double Mark. Adam, Manita, Kieran, Leo. Jamie says, evening, everyone. Ed, of course, Anthony is in. Hope you are good, mate. David is in from New Zealand. Nice. Richard, Tom, Adam, we will come on to that at some point during the evening, no doubt. David, how do? Jordan is in. Yeah, we'll touch on that as well. How are we doing? Stu, hope you are good. And Preston just says, lads, it's going to be a good show, isn't it? Right, let's do the not so nice thing first of all. Yesterday, the iconic voice of Tony Green sadly passed away and left us. The man that commentated on Paul Lim's Nine Dart and many Lakeside passed away at the age of 85 after quite a long battle with illness. So from everyone here at the team, our thoughts go out to Tony Green's family at this time, boys. An iconic voice of the sport.
One of the few voices of the sport that, and because of I feel like I'm not doing him justice if I immediately end up talking about Bullseye, because it doesn't really represent what, for us darts people within the darts world, it doesn't really truly represent everything that he gave to our game. But what he was one of the few people from darts that really move across into the mainstream, that people recognize his voice and people recognize him and they know who he is, and he then helps to bring more eyes onto darts and people into it. So as much as obviously I'd far rather focus on all the great stuff he did within the sport, but I just think it's worth noting that he was one of very few people to truly cross over into being, everybody. My mum knows who he is, and she doesn't know who Michael Van Gerwen is. Like that's the sort of effect he had on where darts was seen by the rest of the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was going to say. To be fair, I think you took the words perfectly there, Dan. He is that crossover that did so much for the game, and like I say, sad moment, very much so.
He was also, and it's worth noting, if you haven't seen this, look it up. But he was on Meet Ricky Gervais I would guess around the early 2000s, and was absolutely amazing on that. So if you just want something to make you smile, that's something to find on YouTube and enjoy.
Yeah, completely. Right, let's jump straight into it. The UK Open, the FA Cup of darts, never fails to deliver, does it, gents? Minehead was rammed. The 3 areas across the weekend. First of all, your favourite moment of the weekend?
Oh, that is genuinely tough, because I could probably do a top 10 easier than if I would say there was a few parts of the weekend where, you know how sometimes you can just be quite lucky to catch special things at special times. And it's a personal one, was that I managed to be about a meter away. I'll tell you where I was. I was stood at the barrier between boards 4 and 5 in the multi-board room. And in front of me, a meter away from me, playing a major match, or a match in a major. I turned my head there, and a meter away from was Gary Anderson doing that. And then literally directly next to me the other way, when I turned my head slightly the other way, was Chris Dobie playing his match. Both like a meter away from me at exactly the same time. And while that was going on, I was stood directly next to Fallon Sherrock. And I thought, life's not bad, is it, lads? It's all right. This has been a good trip. Like, personally, it was the highlights of the weekend was the genuinely spoiltness for a darts fan of that multi-board room. I know there were some major results, and we can, we'll get to them. We'll get to Little as 170, and we'll get to some of the other wacky stuff that went on and the comebacks and everything. But I think for me, it was that that multi-board room. Cam and I and Gob got to a point at one point in that Friday where we'd gone and watched, I think, 5 games in a row, and we 5 games in a row that we'd watched had all gone to deciding legs. And you just think, like, what a special day this is. This is absolutely amazing. That's probably that closeness of seeing my absolute favourite players up so close really was, like, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, just to echo exactly that. The multi-board room was it's just an incredible place to be. It was my first time at Minehead, and I felt like for the entire weekend I basically lost track of time, because there's just so much going on all the time. But you're just seeing so many moments. You think, usually I'd have to sit down and I'd be sat there for 12 hours to have seen what I've seen in such a short space of time. Like, in terms of a match, the one that I probably enjoyed most seeing up close was watching Martin Lukeman beat Danny Noppert in the last leg decider, which was
that was an amazing, that was
an amazing moment. And then, like, ridiculous personal moments that I enjoyed so much, like playing Nico and Andy Hamilton on the soft tip board in the fan zone was just ridiculous. Like, as a personal moment, was just unbelievable. But then, in terms of darts, there's that many from this weekend that I'm struggling, other than the Lukeman game, to pick out real big moments that I enjoyed, because I was just on cloud 9 for the entire weekend.
I tell you, it was interesting as well. I don't think I've told you boys this, but when we interviewed Martin Lukeman after we beat Gary Anderson, he came in and he was like, "I love your fucking boys." All I could hear was Martin, Lukeman.
That was see. I got to the point where, and whilst I think Martin Lukeman's a great fella, I like watching him play darts. Like, I suppose you all know the players that I generally follow, but it gives you the freedom to go and watch whoever you want. And I thought, and I said to the lads, I never expected that I would have watched like 4 Martin Lukeman games in a row, start to finish. But the man completely captured me over the weekend. And we spent quite a lot of time right up close and personal. I think some of that is and I think for those that haven't been and enjoyed a tournament like that, you've essentially got three areas where you can watch darts matches, and they couldn't be more different to each other. You've got an arena essentially with a few thousand people in, where you sit in a stand and Premier League-esque almost. No, you can see them on the stage, but you're watching the darts going on the screen on the telly. Then you've got Reds, which is like, I don't know, I'd guess maybe a few hundred, no more than a few hundred people. Very small venue. Reminds me in terms of, because the atmosphere is gorgeous. It reminds me of a seniors event. Like it reminds me of like the Champion of Champions at the seniors or something like that. That sort of a size of room, just with a very nice atmosphere, and it's a gorgeous place to watch darts. And the multi-board room, it just allows you to get so close. So Mark just put a comment on there about the guy singing the Welsh national anthem when Clayton was playing. That was happening while in the multi-room. And most of the multi-room just started singing the Welsh national anthem all of a sudden at random points in the game. It was just very, very cool. And the variety you get, there's absolutely nothing in the PDC that allows you to get as close to the very, very... Now, if you look at that multi-board room and the players we saw there this week, we saw... I mean, at one point, we stood there and I looked along and there was 3 former world champions playing at the same time. You got Michael Smith in there, you got Gary Anderson in there, Peter Wright was in there, and we're 1.5 meters away from all of those people playing a game in a major event. It's such a unique and special experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Some notable runs, first of all, before we dissect different bits and bobs. What a weekend for Graham Usher. At times, we saw the Graham Usher that we saw at the Super Series, which was really, really pleasing for him. One of the lower ranked players to do very, very well. But Ricky Evans getting to a major semi-final for the first time is a big feather in the cap for Rapid Ricky.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and he had a lot of fans everywhere he went, Ricky Evans, especially when we got in the main arena on the Sunday as well. And like I say, just a huge, huge run from him. And he played really well. Every time we saw him, you just thought, he's going to go deep in this because he's playing well and he looks up for it. He looks calm up there. He's not a worry whatsoever. He got everyone on side as soon as he's got YMCA going. He's just... It all sort of went together for him this weekend.
Yeah. Quarterfinals, Damon Heta against Luke Littler. You will do well to find a better game this year.
Like, just credit where it's due. We could not believe it. It was genuinely unbelievable because I don't think the averages tell. I mean, Heta averaging 106, Luke Littler averaging 104. I don't think they tell the story. You can look at that and say, well, they've both managed to keep 106, 104 average over the course of 18 legs. Clearly, it's a very high level. But I don't think that really tells the story of just the level of drama that was in that game. And again, I think we've got a bit of a different viewpoint on it than if you watched it on the TV, because you are fed averages and stats, and this is a break and this is not. But the atmosphere in there and how tense that felt, and how close it really was at the end, and a game very much decided on very, very small margins and little moments here and there. But as in terms of a game with entertainment, best game I've seen. I can't remember the last time I saw a game that good. I'd have to seriously sit and think about what the last time I was that entertained by darts was.
Yeah, Johnny, yes, I did hear, mate. I'll fill you boys in later. But let's go into it. The final, it split social media. It's been a controversial game, I think it's fair to say. Dimitri van den Bergh beating Luke Humphries. Congratulations to Dimitri winning his second major. Obviously, I watched it on TV. You guys watched it live. Was it a tougher watch live as it was on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult, wasn't it?
It was hard. And it wasn't. So the thing is, and I'll tell you, my view is, and I've seen all sorts of views on social media, and we know there are very high profile people that have come out very much behind Dimitri and very, very much in support of him. For me, I'll just share the view that I have. which isn't really one way on the other in the whether he was doing it on purpose or the reasons why he was doing it. No one truly knows the reasons why he did it, other than him and maybe a few people very close to him. What I will tell you is when you're in the arena and you are captured, like excited and being entertained by this major final, that does suck the life out of it. And I could feel like even just those around me, like being honest, those around us weren't really in the booing camp. Like we could hear a lot of it going on, but it was definitely a tough watch and frustrating because you want more, you want that excitement, and it just kept, every time you sort of got up and excited, you seem to get pulled all the way back down again. I think there's a lot being made of the boos. If you want my honest opinion is, the thing to remember with the UK Open is it's a residential viewing experience. Like you can't buy a ticket to the final of the UK Open like you do for any other major. If you're there and you're in that room, you've been in that room or on that site for 3 days. A lot of people have been on the source for 3 days, and a lot of people have had escalating banter throughout that weekend. Some people just jumped on the exciting prospect to boo someone because they've been on the piss for 3 days and it's good fun. Like, I don't think that truly represents the view of people. I think a lot of people get carried on with it, but by God, it was a tough watch.
Yeah, I think that's all I can say is it, like Dan mentioned earlier, we saw a lot of very close games this weekend. And this one, 11-10 in a final, you should be talking about what a final it was, how close it was. But all of that was sucked out of it by he turned the crowd on its head. Like, he was not getting any stake until 10-8, and he nearly lost himself the game by having that massive break and just standing there staring out at the crowd, having his drink for what felt like, when you're in the arena, about 40 minutes. It was about a minute and a half, 2 minutes, whatever it was.
Seconds.
But it was too much in that moment when he was playing as well as he was, which give him massive credit for how well he was playing. At that point, he turned everyone against him, and it definitely affected him. And it gave Humphries a boost that everyone all of a sudden in that room, from being probably pretty 50-50 at that point, maybe even in Dimmy's favour, I would say, the crowd at that point. It was a good split. There was no...
I would say up until that moment, the crowd were more on Dimmy's side than Luke Humphries.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And all of a sudden, it was then 90% of the room was on Luke Humphries' side, is how it felt in there. And I assume that's how it felt on the stage as well. And it very nearly lost him this game by doing something that it just felt a little bit unnecessary.
It's a really interesting one because it has split everyone. Everyone's got an opinion on it, is the thing. Whether it's for Dimmy, against Dimmy, for Luke, against Luke, everyone has an opinion on this. So it has massively split the darting world, from Wayne Mardle sticking up for Dimmy to Chris Mason saying, no, it's wrong. And for me, it was bordering gamesmanship, to the point where I'm not saying he's done it deliberately. He's doing it for his own reasons to get himself ready. But at times it was too long for me. The time at this table and things like that. The pace of the darts, he's completely entitled, any player is, to do what they want once they're...
He's not that slow when he's...
I don't find that
darts, he's got quite a good rhythm, and that's the point. It's that time at the table away. Like, you almost felt like at that point he'd been stood there for that long that he needed to go and have 9 practice darts again to warm up.
I said it in the stadium. I think I said it directly to Cam. As soon as his toe hit the hockey, he seemed absolutely like I don't find any of that frustrating. What it genuinely looked like is every time he had to walk from the back of the stage to the hockey, the way I described it was, he looks like a kid who's on his way to a bollocking. You know, like how a kid would walk in the head teacher's office. Like he just looked like he was making it sort of as hanging back as much as possible. As soon as his toe hit the hockey, he seemed to play fine, and that's why I thought, I don't know what it is because it was that phase of addressing the hockey that seemed to be really drawn out, and I think that I don't think players get particularly taken too much out of their rhythm with players that have a slow throw, that have a very deliberate action. I think it's the movement around that cycle of the way that they move around from the board, take their darts out slowly, address the hockey slowly, because that's when the other players left sort of in transition, almost uncomfortable. You can stand around while the other player throws the dart, but it's that transition that I think it starts to border on just being a bit close to gamesmanship for me.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting because I remember last year, crowds turned on Dimitri in the Premier League, but then he kind of sped up again, and fans got back on side, and instantly they've turned again. So I completely understand his point where he says, "Look, I'm doing this for me. This is part of my routine." But just ask Owen Price what it's like to be booed every week. It's not nice.
No, so, and that's the danger because,
and I'm not sure Dimmy's mentally strong enough to cope with that every week. Genuinely.
And let's be honest, like with the best will in the world, the crowd are sometimes just looking for someone to boo because it's good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, he could easily become a person the crowd latch onto if this doesn't change. Now, there was a point where once the booing got pretty bad, he stopped it. He stopped doing it. Went straight to the hockey as fast as he ever would before and threw his darts. You look at the match starts, he doesn't dick around with them, just walks to the hockey and takes them.
To be fair, Gordo summed it up there, that we all know that the PDC want entertainment. That's what darts has been built on. If this carries on, are we thinking snooker shot clock or something along those lines?
I don't mind the idea. I don't mind the idea at all. Certainly for something like the Premier League, where you want it to be fast and rapid and it's more for the casual fan, I think that's a really good idea, especially if Timmy ends up back in it next year like he likely will after this.
How much though, Cam, would that start to creep in and affect not just the slower players? Well, and I suppose it's your man is the example that I go to first and foremost. Nathan Aspinall on a shot clock. With it's not so much the slowness of him, it's the regrips and it's the being settled and things like that. It's not just the slow players that would affect, is it?
But I think it's almost the time you can do it based on time to get your first dart off, because sometimes there's going to be something that happens after that first dart or the second dart where it's completely blocked. You've got to move, you've got to reset. But that time, at least if it was a shot clock from when the other person retrieves the darts from the board for you to have let your first one go, I don't think it's a bad idea.
No, I don't. I think it's maybe a bit of it's a bit of a sort of halfway house, isn't it? Where you can appease it a little bit and stop. And again, because I think the main problem where people stick around with it is that transition. It's, slow getting the darts out, slow moving around, getting the first one off. If it was a clock to get the first dart off, then it would be interesting to see if anyone took the piss with it.
Literally wait until the last.
Chucked one in, step back, step forward again, had a walk.
Yeah, actually, we might have made this worse here. I think we've made it. I've ruined it here.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt.
Right, look, I'm going to play the clip of what Luke said in his post-match, and then we'll carry on this.
No, I wasn't angry with him, but I'm used to Dimitri being quite a flowy player, and it's quite a good pace to play against. Whereas he's completely different now. He's probably one of the toughest players to play because he's incredibly slow, and it obviously takes a long time to take his darts out. And that's not what I'm used to with him. Obviously this is a new. Not tactic, it's like a new adaptation for his game that he's brought in for himself, and it's going to take a lot of players getting used to it, because when someone changes their whole style, you're used to one game from them, then it's completely different. So it was quite tough to follow the rhythm there, but that wasn't the reason I didn't play so good. But you've got to give him credit. The crowd were on his back. I tried stopping him from booing and whistling, because obviously no one likes it. I don't like it against me. So but the crowd made their mind up, and I thought that when he slowed everything down to when he was 10-8 up. I thought, it's not a good thing to do that because the crowd are getting on your back then, and you're thinking about it.
Couple of key points in there that I picked out that it's our job to, where he said he's slow taking them out, and when he slowed it all down.
Yeah.
They were the key phrases that I picked out of that.
Yeah, well, what you take from that is it's when you say when someone says when he slowed it all down, that to me makes me feel that Luke thinks that that's been done on purpose for whatever reason. It's a choice. He hasn't. It's not just happened to him. He's not thinking. He's not getting back and thinking, did I slow down? I didn't feel like I was slowing down. Is that maybe the moment got to me? Like, I think the understanding there is that he's chosen to slow it down for whatever purpose or whatever reason. But interesting that Luke didn't seem to question that, like that it wasn't a subconscious thing. That's what he did.
Yeah, clearly, you could tell, and Luke's obviously a very nice bloke, and he didn't want to call him out or sort of make it any worse. Like I say, you could clearly see him try and get people not to boo him on the stage, which at that point I'm not sure I'd have been as keen to do. And he clearly said in that interview as well that he's like, I wasn't getting angry at him. But at the same time, when he then says when he slowed it down and he's slow getting them out, he's just too nice to say the fact.
Yeah, he didn't say he wasn't getting pissed
angry
at all.
But I just didn't want to say it.
Well, the other one as well is he's done it against Luke, which is one thing. Would he do it against an MVG, a Gerwyn Price, a Gary Anderson?
Kim Ibrex.
That's a whole different kettle of fish.
I might have that accident down them stairs.
Yeah. I think he'd want to take his darts out the board faster then, just in case another one came flying at him. I think
Jonathan, we touched on that. It'll be interesting to see if they do bring a shot clock in. Jamie, how we doing, buddy? Unlucky on Saturday night, but great run to the final, mate. Right, before we move on from that, gamesmanship, yes or no? One word, Dan.
Yes.
Cam.
What's that?
Gamesmanship, yes or no?
Oh, that's 100%. I know it's more than one word, but
I'm with you as well. I think it was. But there we go. Right. Other memorable moments from the UK Open. We have to talk about the James Wade facial expressions when Luke takes out 170, because that is going to be a meme and a gif for years and years to come.
Yes, and I'm going to have a really short rant, like not a rant, but something that.
No, if you want to rant, go ahead. This is
me off
a
little bit. Right. So, and genuinely, it's not a rant that's like coming, because I suppose I'll tell you what. So what I'll come later on to the two updates that I got this weekend from the Sky Sports app, and both relating to Luke Littler. Didn't get an update to see who'd won it or anything like that. Just Sky Sports just pumping Luke Littler news to me. So but that's another thing. I think it's a bit shit how the TV companies persistently frame James Wade's reactions, that camera's on him all the time, waiting for a reaction because they know he's prone to a reaction. Now, if you take the time to learn a little bit about James Wade and his background and his life and the things that he deals with on a daily basis and the diagnosis that he has, I would recommend Simon Jordan's podcast with James Wade if you want to get a bit of an insight on it. And I think it's a bit of a dick's trick to constantly try and chop that into a meme. I get it's funny. I get it's a laugh. It would be less irritating to me if they did it to everyone, if it wasn't that they're looking for it in him. I just think it's exploiting something, and it's just one step over taking the piss for me. Whilst, don't get me wrong, it was a piss funny gif. Like, it was very funny. Like, there's no taking away from that. I just think it frustrates me that there seems to be constantly a camera waiting to get a reaction or a face pull from James Wade, and I just think it's a bit of a dick's trick.
Having you said that, I can completely agree. And when I direct on the Super Series, I'm not going to lie, there are certain players that do exactly the same, and I'm the same. I'm like, get me a camera on him straight away. So yes, the director is 100% doing it because I do it when I direct as well.
A bit like Mervyn King will get the same thing as well, because Merv likes a little reaction in the background.
And don't get me wrong, I think it's funny. Like, I like it, and it's a funny gif. But I just think sometimes that maybe there needs to be a little bit of thought going into what we're doing.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. The UK Open itself, what was your, obviously you guys were there as fans. What was your thoughts on the board choices for the main stage? Too much of the same, or did they get it right, or would you have liked to see more variety up there?
I was pleasantly sort of surprised that we saw Luke Humphries sort of religiously the last game on as world number 1 and world champ on the main stage. I thought that was fair enough, and gave him a bit of what he's not really had, because it has been all sort of listless since that final, even though Luke was the one that went on and won it. So I was happy with that. Other than that, I don't know. I think I was a bit too excited running around the multi-board room and in Reds that I sort of have forgotten half of who was on the main stage at times. I'm not even going to pretend that I can remember.
So again, and I know it's a bit dismissive, I couldn't give a monkey's what's on the main stage until the Sunday, because like I went and watched. I think I maybe watched 2 games on the main stage,
both right before the draw. Yeah.
What did I watch? Who did we watch?
I don't know. Whatever was on before the draw.
Dobie and Anderson. So I was going to miss that. So like I watched Dobie and Anderson on the main stage, and I watched very little else. If anything, the only frustration was there are players that I would have liked to see in the other environments that were on the main stage, and I was too busy getting excited about the multi-board room. I did think it was good that they decided to put Andrew Gilding on the main stage. I thought that was the right thing to do. You've got to, there needs a bit of respect for having won it last year. I think, I don't know, we're a bit biased because the games that weren't on the main stage that maybe other people would have enjoyed watching on ITV, we
were very happy about it.
In a far better environment. So
yeah, Smith Cullen being not on the main stage was absolutely sort of exactly what we wanted, wasn't it?
Yeah, for us, perfect, because we wanted to watch it in a lovely little room where we could sit dead comfortable and sit with a beer and be close to it and see the darts go in the board. So I think any time there's a criticism of the main stage selection, really for those in the venue, it's a bit of a treat because you get access to. So as I say, like, there was a moment up there where there was 3 former world champions all playing at once, and we were a couple of meters away from them, or like everyone like in that room. So I certainly didn't get upset that Gary Anderson wasn't on the main stage at that point, because I was enjoying seeing him play.
Do you think they learnt a lesson from last year when Danny Noppert, as defending champion, wasn't on the main stage? Because there was quite a backlash on social media when that happened, and from fans. Because I must admit, I didn't think they'd put Andrew back on the main stage. I'm pleased they did, because as defending champion of anything, I think you've earned that right. So do you think it was lesson learned from Noppy the year before, Cam?
I think so, yeah. I think that's exactly what happened. I think that's why we saw him on there, was the fact that they didn't want that backlash again, and realised that they got it wrong the year before by not giving Noppy his moment up there. And yeah, I thought it was the right thing to do. I thought they got it spot on, and sometimes they actually listen to the people.
The people. Gary Anderson, a decent tournament, ended with 102 average, so he's lost to a very good Martin Luke. When we built Gary up beforehand, that there are encouraging signs. You're not going to keep averaging ton pluses in losing games.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, I think it's one of those things, and I think it's what most people will probably feel when they come off who play darts at any sort of standard, and I assume it's probably the same for the players. Like, yes, obviously, first and foremost, you want to go up there and win, but you'll get more frustrated and more pissed off about playing badly and getting beat than going, my game's in a really good place and someone's just played a little bit better than me in that moment, and you kind of can come away from that one and think it could have been worse. Like, it's not, there's nothing going wrong with my game right here. I'm in a good spot, and at one point it's going to go my way rather than this way.
Yeah. The ITV coverage itself, one slight negative was the final, that we had 3 outstanding broadcasters and commentators there, and they weren't used on the final. I thought was a little bit, I don't get it. You want the product to be as best it can, and for Mace, Webby and Dan not to commentate on the final was criminal.
It's strange. It's a strange and unusual choice, and I have no idea how you come to that conclusion. I don't get it. I don't know who makes the decision at what level, but whoever made that decision, it's a very unusual one. Or I'd be very interested to see what the justification was and what the decision-making process would be, because it just seems very strange to me.
Yeah, 100%. I think we all kind of expected. Obviously, we didn't have that in the venue, but watching on, you'd be thinking that's exactly who should be on it and who we would expect to be on the final of a major tournament.
Yeah. Just strange how you've got 3 elite broadcasters there and not used for the showpiece final. There was a very strange moment on stage 2 as well, that it will go down as one of those quiz questions, why a game was stopped, that Simon Whitlock needing an emergency toilet break in a pivotal moment against Damon Hesser.
Was it gamesmanship?
Was it gamesmanship? He also couldn't get in the lab because Cam was utilising it all weekend. He couldn't get it.
I did have a number of visits to the bathroom.
You had a number of Simon Whitlocks over the course of the weekend, didn't you, mate? Very strange. I think he benefited. To be honest, he benefited from the fact that he was playing his former World Cup winning partner. I think there are other players on the circuit that might not have been as accommodating or understanding. It might have immediately started to call for, the final whistle. Obviously, that didn't happen. That wasn't the case. Obviously, made less controversial by the fact that Simon Whitlock lost the match. I think if Simon Whitlock had gone on to win the match, that's when we would have we would have got more controversy. But I think, yes, it's a lie. I think there'll be a lot less made of it because of who he was playing and what the result was than it certainly if he'd have been playing some other people. And if he'd have gone on to win, I think we could have had a right, There
would have been more questions. That gamesmanship question would have been thrown out if it had gone the other way. But I think sometimes you've just got to go on. When you've got to go, you've got to go, and it just is what it is. I mean, what else do you want him to do? Do you want him to just stay up there playing and deal with the consequences in front of everyone on live TV?
Very well put. You put that far more eloquently than I thought you were going to when you were working your way into that. As you were working your way into that sentence, I thought he's not going to find a nice way to say this. And credit to you,
on TV.
That's it. Well, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I've been back at work today. I mean, if you'd listened to any of me, Gob and Dan for the entire weekend, you wouldn't be able to broadcast this show. It just wouldn't. I assume Gob's vlog has got numerous beeps in it, where especially me and Dan, but the main one being on when we went back for board 5, and we were like, we'll get there early, we'll get to the front. Gob's just filming it, and all you can hear in the back, he's filming it going, getting to the front's not gone to plan because we're way back, and you can just hear me in the background just go, I can't see an effing thing.
The interesting thing with the Whitlock one was the fact he offered to concede the game as well. It was like, look, you have the game. I need to go, which I thought
I
was,
mean, that's definitely not the gamesmanship, then, is it? That is.
Yeah, he genuinely offered to give Damon the game. He said, look, I've just got to go. Another thing, which we have got an interview coming out with him tomorrow, is the MVG shoulder injury. He said, yes, there was a problem. It's feeling okay now. It's not a reoccurrence of last year's one. It just felt like a trapped nerve or something. But it brings me on to another point, which we've never really had to cross in darts before, but I'm going to be interested to see if it keeps happening, will they bring it in, is the fact that should there be some kind of medical timeout if needed? Because we are seeing more and more injuries creeping into the sport. And he had 3 minutes for the ad break and then back up there. So there was no kind of time to try and do anything. Do you think something going forward potentially is to look at is the possibility of a medical timeout?
Yeah, it's probably not a bad idea. Like say, like at tennis or that sort of thing, where they can say, "Look, I'm struggling here. Can I call the trainer on?" Because it might make for it'll make for a better spectacle if he can get a bit of treatment that's going to make him be able to throw better. I think I called it out as we were sat there in Exeter on Thursday night that he almost couldn't throw up the board, and you could tell he was really struggling. He was good down the board, but it looked like he was struggling. It was similar to what we've seen with Dirk for a bit of time. But if someone could just get up there and some painkillers or massage it or whatever it might be, something to try and just make it better, I think that's going to help. But then you also open it up to Dimitri van den Bergh calling a 12-minute timeout to get himself looked at when he's about to throw for the match.
The thing is, well, there are some events that lend itself very well. You know, when you've got the UK Open on and you've got 8 games going on at once, and you have to, it's very easy to stop one and go to another. I think you could leave some of our broadcast friends very exposed if every now and again you just throw at them for 20 minutes on the fly. I think you risk the engage. I think darts is in such a period of growth at the moment, and I think it's really important to keep eyes on it for as long as possible, because I think there are still some fickle new fans that the moment things aren't jazzy and entertaining, they'll just flick back to Coronation Street or the shit we're watching elsewhere. I think you run the risk of, if all of a sudden you've got to throw to and with the greatest of respect to those that present the TV shows and stuff, I'm saying throwing to someone for with no preparation for 20 minutes and saying, go on, carry this for a bit. If you're going to find it difficult to keep people engaged and watching that product. I don't know if there's a way to still maintain that and reduce the risk of that and making things quite short and having things that are and aren't covered by that.
Yeah, it's just an interesting point to see if we're thinking it's something.
The worry is that people end up just going for a piss every time, they want to stop someone's momentum.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I get it. The other one which I'd like to see come in whilst we're on this subject is at the moment, during their game, players aren't allowed to talk to anyone. Their managers, some have coaches, as we know. And again, I'm not saying every break, but at least once in a game, you should be allowed to talk to your coach stroke manager, because they're watching and they might be able to see something that you're not, where at the moment you're not. And I think it's pretty much one of the only sports where that doesn't happen. In every other sport, pretty much a coach or a manager gets some time with his team or player.
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, I think it's one of those where, like you say, there could just be something like some little tweak in terms of we're watching it from the back here. We've got our eyes on it, and you're not quite gripping it right. It's not quite pointing right before you're setting up, but as you're setting up, and it could enhance the spectacle. But it's again, how would you do that, and how would you bring that in where it's actually not going to hurt the player?
I'll tell you what it would do. It would all of a sudden create a load more personalities within the world of darts, because like in golf where people have their caddies, you would end up knowing the names of all the darts players, people that they had that came on and speak to them, and then they'd all be getting equal amounts of stick and flack on social media and it would, in terms of engagement and content, it would it certainly would increase that. I'm not convinced how relevant it is. I don't know how much it's needed. I don't know how much one of the things that makes darts what it is that it is one person on their own. Granted, there's doubles, but predominantly it's a person on their own against the board, against their opponent. I think you maybe detract from some of that as soon as you start having, timeouts for coaching. Could help some players that can't count for shit. And all of a sudden, there'll be a few that might just have a quick chat with the coach to do the adding up.
It's not even so much going, you're doing this slightly wrong with your grip, but
that's
time
what
you're
I'm
on 302, stop going fucking 3 darts at the 20. Like,
if we're having players that have managers and coaches, then it needs to be full WWE. I want people like tripping the opponent, like Jim Cornette, sort of like coming down with a tennis racket. Like, it's got to be done with some sort of pizzazz.
So literally, someone just said that in the chat at the exact same time.
Yeah, that's what I saw it. I was like, right, yeah, I want them like tripping that heel and like just like every now and again, just having a cheeky little
He's taken one of the darts during the break. Like,
yeah, distracting the referee and changing the scoreboard.
So we got Matt Ward, full man for the South, with the megaphone as he walks in. Ricky,
yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Mac Elkin with a tennis racket.
But yeah, look, the UK Open as a whole, an absolute huge hit as always. One of the most enjoyable tournaments on the TV. As we stand now, winning it, does that get Dimitri back in the Premier League?
I think
yes.
I think it has to. Obviously, as we know, there's sort of these lights anyway, isn't he? By Sky, by the media, and the fact that he can do his little dance at the start and get a bit of interaction with the crowd, and then he's young and he's part of the new generation. But
sorry,
yeah, I've just seen that. But yeah, he's. I think winning this, I think it's given them full justification to put him back in, and I think that they will do.
Brilliant.
Before the UK Open, we obviously had the Premier League in Exeter, and boys, I did warn you that it was a cattle shed.
Up the cow shed
in the middle of nowhere. I did warn you before we got there, boys, didn't I?
It is literally in the middle of nowhere. We were at a country pub just beforehand because we got there a little bit earlier than we thought we might do. And we thought, it was really quiet when we walked in. And then all of a sudden, all the darts fans turned on. We thought, we can't be that near it here. Like, we're in the absolute arse end of nowhere here. Like, but it was literally 2 minutes from there we got there. I'm disappointed I didn't get to see any sheep shearing out the back. But there is a setup.
Sheep shearing shed was closed, wasn't it?
I know it was closed. I was disappointed. I'd have given up the first game for that if I could have just been and watched a bit of that first. Pleasantly surprised once we got in there that there were some toilets inside as well, because we were concerned that the 6 portaloos outside were the only place you could go.
It's an acquired taste, isn't it?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great. Really good atmosphere in there. Because it is just an old cow shed, it's not that big either, so everything's quite close in together and it holds the sound in quite well.
It does help that we were on table 2. That's why it felt quite like, because we were that close. We were very close. We were lucky enough to be very close to the front, weren't we? So we got a nice view and a nice atmosphere. The heating was on in there. It was nice.
It's lovely and warm. I was expecting. I tell you what,
it was from last year.
Parking was free.
It wasn't that warm last year, I can assure you.
Parking was free and it wasn't on grass. So that was, there were a number of.
They did get it wrong with the old ticket collection, having one window in a very small, container to get your tickets, and it being utterly freezing outside. I wasn't the happiest that I was all weekend at that point, was I, Mr. Simpson?
Yeah, the set up an organisation wasn't amazing for getting into the venue. As I say, right, as Cam rightly said, one small hut with one small window for ticket collection. When you know how many people are going to collect tickets, you know how many tickets you've sold, and you know how many you've issued, so you know how many people are coming. And there was an awful lot of tickets that didn't get sent out, and they ended up converting to e-tickets as well, and didn't change that. And Cam is not a man that likes to be cold and wet. And you were, weren't you, mate?
No, I wasn't happy at that point, but probably slightly happier at that point than I was at about 2:30 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Correct.
I could not find my way back to our apartment because every single building looks the same in my head, and I had to get Mr. Simpson to come and rescue me.
Correct, but it was a brilliant night. We saw some interesting things. I think that the night average wasn't great. I think it was about the worst we've had, maybe. Oh no, not quite the worst. It wasn't bad. Wasn't as bad as it felt.
I think
it felt a bit lackluster. It didn't feel great. I think the fact that Humphreys against Van Gerwen went off and was a tough watch, to be completely honest. It was not a great game to watch. Neither was Aspinall Wright. Rob Cross was very much the shining light in that opening round, and then sort of slowly he looked sort of amazing in the opening round, all right in the second round, and average in the final. He sort of slipped off it. I know the averages don't tell exactly that story, but it's how it felt the games were going. But that opening round, Rob Cross, man, what a performance!
Oh, it's incredible. It persuaded me to part with some of my hard-earned cash. It's probably a stretch, hard-earned, but some of my cash on Rob Cross to win the UK Open at that point, midway through game one, because I thought if he plays like this for the rest of tonight, he ain't going to be 25-1 by about 11 o'clock this evening. So I got on early. And then he managed to make a mess of it on the Sunday, but it is what it is.
Yeah, look, there was some unbelievable performances, like you say. Rob Cross and Luke Littler were the two standout performances from the opening round in Exeter. Then Luke Humphreys, arguably, was the standout performance in defeat against Nathan Aspinall, but Nathan's composure in that final leg was just world class when he was under the cosh.
Yeah, he was massively under it at that point. And bearing in mind that he needed a big night, the way things were going so far, he needed to kick on. I thought it was really impressive, actually, how composed he was and the way he held it together to get himself into that final against Rob Cross, and then to go on and perform like he did in it. It was just really steady and really good from him, I thought.
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree. Before we dissect the final, we hear the clip from Nathan. Let's talk the Luke Littler dart change from absolutely nowhere, that he's gone away from his normal pixel grips, rocks up with, the way this is going to sound is not meant to, his cheap and nasty darts that have been bought out for the Luke Littler range, so they're more affordable than his pixel ones. And then he rocks up with them and averages 106 and plays them at the UK Open as well. Ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly that. I think as part of the Gob doing the vlog as we were there, he told me I wasn't allowed to say it, but you've just said cheap and nasty, so I'm saying it. The Argos darts, essentially, is what he was using. That are there for someone to go, still throwing some Luke Littlers, but I'm not paying 110, 120 quid for the pixels. Get the kids to buy the cheaper ones, and he turned up, and I think at this point, I honestly believe he could use anything. Like, he can use the £2 pub darts that have got 3 different stems and 3 different flights and a broken point, and he'd still win, and he'd still average 100.
I think it's I tell you what, a little bit of me that just feels it's a little bit refreshing, because we see lots and lots of endorsed darts. Like, I remember the first set of darts I bought were a set of Gary Anderson darts, and I'm telling you now, Gary Anderson never thrown darts like that before. Like he's never thrown, and he's certainly not thrown a set of them darts on the telly, right? He's not, and I think sometimes, you know, like if you are going to endorse something and you're going to put your name to it and say these are all right, these you should buy them, they've got my name on. I just think, well, yeah, good on you for picking them up and using them. I don't know how long he'll stick with them. I think that if we'd have had I think what not so much went wrong. What I suspect happened is he planned to use them at the Premier League and didn't think the first time he chucked him he'd average 107, and then all of a sudden he's averaged 107. The first competitive game he's used those darts for. I can imagine it's very difficult to put those darts down. If I found a set of darts and that I averaged 107 with, I'd sell my car and buy 100,000 sets of them.
I'll be honest, the day that I have 107, I don't play again. I'm retiring at that point before I make a mess of it.
Yeah, it was just incredible that he has the confidence in himself to go and do that. It's just remarkable.
The only problem is, now he's going to sell none of the pixels.
Yeah, but you can't get them at the moment. They're sold out. That's why.
Yeah. Yes, maybe so.
Yeah, it does. Like Johnny says that it gives me some assurance that the £23 I spent on a Ronnie O'Sullivan pool cue means he might be playing with that. He's probably using that in his house, isn't he? Just for a knock.
Could you imagine if Ronnie turned up in Saudi this week for that 167 with an Argos cue?
Well, I think the challenge is laid down, isn't it?
Probably still win.
Oh,
that's the key. Tyson Fury needs to use a pair of boxing gloves from Sports Direct as well.
Them ones that were in that claw machine.
Yeah. Tiger Woods has to play around with a set of Dunlop cues, a set of Dunlop clubs.
Yeah.
That's what we need. Professional sportsmen playing with the shit that we have to buy.
Yeah, that's it. I can't wait to see Lewis Hamilton in a 2003 Micros wrestling round.
Yeah. Let's put it on an even playing field.
To be fair, I want to see Luke turn up with some brass fairground darts this week in Brighton, as we're at the sea side.
Yeah, absolutely.
With real feathers in the flights.
Yeah, actually with real feathers in.
That would be incredible. But fair play to Nathan Aspinall. We've got a clip from the Asp after Thursday, and here we go.
Oh, I'm buzzing. That winning feeling, like I say, I've not had it since July, winning the match play. It's been a torrid 6 months. Obviously, as I speak to you more than most, and I've been battling demons in my head. There's been a few issues on and off. Well, not off the hockey, but on the hockey, my finishing is what's been costing me. But over the last 7 days, I've been speaking to my family and the people that matter and the people that know me, and we've had a change up tonight, as you probably have all noticed, and double 16 has been binned at the moment, and it's obviously paid off tonight. But now I'm just proud of myself, the fact that I've dug deep, and after probably a pathetic 3 weeks starting off the Premier League campaign, a final and a win, I'm so proud. I've been low for 6 months. Probably the last time I felt in control of my game was probably the Rob Cross game at the Grand Slam, and he beat me. I don't even know what it was, but he beat me. But I played fantastic, and that was probably the last time I walked on a stage and I felt comfortable. And obviously the PDC put me in the Premier League this year. I deserved it. I believe I deserved that spot. And you know what I'm like. All I want to do is please the fans, prove to the PDC that they've made the right decision, prove to my family, my friends, my fans.
Refreshing from Nath.
Yeah, I think he's just a man that's. I mean, we know I root for him more than most, but he's a man that's very difficult not to root for, isn't he? He's always honest. He always tells you how it is, and you always know where you're at with him. And And it's nice to see him get up there and win on Thursday.
Yeah. So we head to the South Coast, the home fixture for me. Only an hour and 40 minutes from home, Brighton, this week as night 6 of the BetMGM Premier League kicks off. And before we get into the individual games, are we almost in must-win territory for a few players?
Well, I think for one player in particular, we're in must-win, like without a doubt.
Yeah. Peter Wright has to win this week. Otherwise, it's basically over at this point. And
yeah. The other one that there are question marks around, and he again had a poor UK Open. Are we concerned for Geraldine Price at the moment?
He's one first round win off Luke Humphries and Michael Smith. So I get that, but he's a mile away in
Premier League away when he got to the final in Cardiff and was brilliant. Since then, it's been a bit of a disaster in terms of everything in Pro Tours, the UK Open. Did he miss 6 match starts to beat Martin Schindler? Just un-Gezi-like at the moment. That makes you think that is his head there at the moment for darts?
It's not, but it's definitely not in the right place for where it should be at the moment. But what I do think is there's enough there of his game that over the course of this format, he'll still pick up wins here and there, which he is doing across the board. Like, we know he's a mile away from where he expects to be at the minute, whether that's Pro Tours, Euro Tours, or Premier League itself. But he seems to be more peaks and troughs than consistently crap. And I think he will pick. There's enough peak and trough performances, right? If we're honest, if you look right down that Premier League, other than Michael van Gerwen, everyone else is up and down in there at the minute. And I think he'll catch enough people on a down while he's on an up that he'll consistently pick up points. I think he's probably nailed on to be 6th or 7th. I don't think he's going to come in the top 4, but I don't think it's going to be an embarrassment for him. I don't think it's going to fall off a cliff. I just think his entire game isn't where he expects it to be. Obviously, he has had a little bit of a further slip down the rankings this week. He's slipped out to 6th in the world now. He was very much used to being in the top 4 for quite a long time. Interesting to see if at any point people start to have that conversation, if he slips further out of that, down those rankings, because realistically, looking at the other people that are sniffing around and what they've done and certainly what people could be defending, he could finish the year outside the top 10, having not won a major for a long time. And then you've got an interesting conversation about the Premier League.
This year he's defending £275,000, 46% of his ranking money.
So he wins something big, or he's going to finish around, he's going to finish in the top 16, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, come July, he's defending 100 grand at the match play, 60 grand at the World Grand Prix. So there's a fair chunk coming up.
And don't get me wrong, all of a sudden, if he finds it, then he could defend that money. But it's not looking likely at the minute. It's not looking likely at the moment like he's going to defend even half that money. And if he doesn't defend half that money, he's outside the top 12.
Yeah.
And then it's a tough conversation then for the Premier League, because then you are just going to have to say, well, he's outside the top 12 and he hasn't won a major for a long, long time at that point. And you were just going to have to say, he's well still. So he's going to have to be in.
See, I think as always with Gezi though, he's one game away from being right back at it. And I don't think he's a million miles off just having that one good game. It could even come this week in Brighton, and it could be that he plays well first game, rattles through wins the night in no time, and then all of a sudden everything else just clicks together because he is that sort of player that once it does, it doesn't tend to go away very quickly either.
Yeah. Bazza, I will star that and we'll come back to that during question time. Sam brings up a good point, which has been sort of overlooked. We're at the point, there's a great Twitter account that says, what darts is Peter Wright using? Are we getting to the point now where we're going to have to start one to say, what is Gezi going to walk on to this
What
week?
walk on is Gezi doing?
Because building up Buttercup was horrific.
Oh.
No, I won't have that said.
No, it was a bad idea, badly executed. And it shouldn't be, and it needs putting a stop to. I've solved this problem, as you both know. I have solved this problem, and the sooner somebody acts upon my advice, the better. In fact, on the road from Exeter to Minehead at midnight, I solved that problem at the maximum capacity of my sound system and really tested the Sonos upgrade just to present
you
to Cam.
You tested our ears, is what you tested at that point.
Just to reassure people how good my idea is.
He's struggling with a song at the moment, isn't he? I know I like yours, Dan, but whether they'll go for it is another matter. But are we going to have a quick guess on what he's going to walk on to in Brighton this week?
I think he'll take it back to "Don't Stop Believing" for Brighton. I think he's going to have that one.
I'm not going to entertain anything other than what it should be, which is the MOP remix of Cold as Ice. I'd even accept the Foreigner original version.
Yeah.
But the MOP remix with the bass drop is what it needs to be.
I'm going to think outside the box. I'm going Dolly Parton 9 to 5.
Sounds like my darts.
I'm just going random. Let's just chuck it out there. It's going to go for a bit of Dolly this week.
Yeah,
I'd be all for it. I don't mind it. I don't mind just mixing it up and throwing a few different ones out there that people aren't expecting.
Yeah, let's just try and guess every week.
It gives us something to talk about.
Frog.
No. Now we've reached level of ridiculous now. Like
this is what happens. You start letting people come out to build me up Buttercup, and the wheels fall off very, very quickly. I've seen somebody write in High School Musical. This is what I mean. Like, if we could just treat this as a serious matter that it is.
Either that or he comes out to Eiffel 65 Blue.
Right.
I've got it because he can do this. He can take his game to a next level. He can come out to the Macarena, and as soon as he gets up on the stage, bust out the dance to the Macarena.
Ricky Evans-esque with the YMCA.
Yeah, YMCA. We're going full Gerwin Price doing the Macarena.
Well, this is the problem: is Ricky joined. I just don't think it's a fit. I don't think it's a fit for him to do that. It just needs a mint song.
Yeah, it needs something like I say, we want him pumped up. Just come out to like "Can't Be Stopped" by Roy Jones Jr. or something like that. Like from
Mama Said "Knock You Out" by LL Cool J. How about that? God, not Tom Jones.
Well,
it's a race to the bottom, this, isn't it?
He is Welsh, though, so I don't think Tom Jones is very far away from being used at some point.
Well, we can't have Delilah because that's banned, isn't it?
No, I double-checked this, right? Because I wanted clarity on this. So it is only...
Because you wanted to play.
Yeah.
Doing karaoke.
This is how ridiculous it is. Delilah is only banned from the Principality Stadium. That is it.
It's not. It's banned in our house as well. That's not the only place banned.
Yeah, it's not allowed in the house, but Mr. Simpson is allowed to play it in the car when he's in there. As soon as he comes back, Mrs.
It's only banned from the Principality. So instead, the fans just sing it instead.
Wow.
But Sam, I am bang up for that. The Cody Rhodes theme tune, Kingdom.
Yeah, I'm not having him using any Oasis, Dara, though. We're not having that. That's reserved for
Sully in
me.
there, good name.
Yeah.
But we head to the Brighton Centre this week, and let's run you through the games. It is Luke Humphries against Gerwyn Price, Rob Cross against MVG, Littler Aspinall, and then Michael Smith against Peter Wright. Gentlemen, let's go through. First up, Humphries against Price. On paper, on current form, this looks like one way. However, are you going with the 4-man, or is the Iceman going to cause an upset?
I am going to go slightly against the run of form. I think Luke Humphries has had a long weekend, a bit of a strange weekend in terms of form and what he threw and how. I'm going to go with a Gezi Price 6-4 win.
Yeah, I wanted to be the one being different and picking the upset, but I'm gonna have to look like I've just copied you now, because I think that's exactly what I'm gonna go for. Mr. Simpson, can I have a look at your own work? Yeah, don't make it too hard. 6-4 Gezi. 6-4 Gezi. I'm with you.
I'm going Luke. I just don't think the Price renaissance comes this week. 6-4 Luke Humphries for
you know,
me.
I've just realised we have to actually submit these for our little competition, don't we? So I need to write my picks down.
Oh yeah, I've not written them down either.
If I don't write them down, then I'm not going to remember them for later. And it is a very, very quick insight into our weekend is when I open my notes page, the top note, the subject of the notes that I was steadily taking over the weekend is simply titled Cam's Nonsense. The other spoiler is I can't read any of the points out on this screen without getting cancelled.
I was just going to say that if you start reading anything out, I am going to kick you out of this immediately.
Right. What did I say? Gezi wins 6-4. Right. I'll type them up and I can send them to Gob afterwards.
I think this is why we've not written them down already, is that Gob has not, because he was also on the journey back with us yesterday, hasn't actually put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't got a league table yet. Right, who's next?
Rob Cross, Michael Van Gerwen.
You can have this one first, Cam. I went first last time.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm meant to copy your own work now.
Exactly.
I think that Rob Cross is playing too well, and I'm concerned about Michael's shoulder. So I think that even in his new shirt, he's going to get beat 6-3 by Rob Cross.
Right. So that it doesn't look like we just did this in the car yesterday. I'm going to have to give him one more. Cross wins. It's just what the score is.
In fairness, going off your predictions last week, Dan, you need to give him one more because you had 5-4 in one of them.
I did, yeah. Sorry about that. No, do you know what? He gives him one. I tell you what, Rob Cross has been playing some unbelievable darts in the Premier League. He's going to win 6-2.
Oh,
hello.
Yes.
Hello. Everyone knows I'm not going against my boy. MVG wins 6-4.
Fair play.
Not going against him.
Consistent. It's all about being consistent, as I said to Mr. Simpson over the weekend.
Yeah,
so,
it may be consistently crap, but I'm going consistent.
Yeah, well, that's it. I will be a liability, but consistently I'll be a liability, and you'll know what to expect.
He's not wrong.
Yeah.
Go on, it's your turn first again.
Littler, Aspinall Littler. Well, and just a spoiler alert, Aspinall promised us last week he was going to smash him.
Yeah. But on the subject of consistency, what Nathan Aspinall hasn't been in recent times is consistent. So I think he's going to be consistently inconsistent and isn't going to back up last week's win with more points this week. And I've got this as a relatively comfortable 6-3 Luke Littler win.
I'm going to be consistent again. I'm not going against my boy here, and I'm having him nicking it in a decider 6-5 Nathan Aspinall.
See, this is why I like the old Premier League format, because every now and then we could chuck a draw in.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to be able to chuck a draw in.
Yeah. I'm going, Luke, I'm going 6-4 to Luke Littler, and hopefully he uses a Phil Taylor dumpy dart this week or something just to spice it up.
I was going with a bowl of cereal on his table.
Yes, we've got to talk about that at some point.
We'll touch on the ad in a minute. Don't worry about that.
I want him to play left-handed this week is what I want him to do.
And then last up, it is Bully Boy against Snakebite. Again, Michael Smith, when he's good, he's very good. But when the radar is off, the radar is off. Signs Peter Wright getting back to somewhere near where he expects. What are we going for?
Tough one, this.
My turn.
Oh, go first. Sorry, go on.
I still, as much as Peter Wright is playing better, I still find it tough to pick against Michael Smith in this one. I think close, but I think 6-5 Smith. I think Wright will push him. He'll play well, and he'll push him all the way. But we've seen it quite a few times so far in this Premier League that Michael Smith is winning a lot of close games when he needs to.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah. I can't see anything other than a Smith 6-5. I just think that's what's going to happen. To be fair, it could be 6-5 either way. I think it goes all the way. They're both showing bits. I think Smith's got enough about him at the minute just to get through that and sort it out.
Can I make two predictions on this one? Because and hear me out before this.
Well, if you pick both of them to win, then no, because that's cheating.
There's a caveat. If Peter Wright uses the element darts, he wins 6-4.
Okay.
If he uses anything other than the elements, Michael Smith wins 6-4.
Okay, so now you have to predict what darts is he going to use.
Yeah, now I'm trying to work out what darts is he going to use. I'm going to use the element.
Maybe he's going to use the Luke Littler's. Maybe he's going to use Luke Littler's darts.
Could you imagine?
I've got a prediction for what Luke
before. Though, when he was going through the point of switching every single week, just turn up your opponent's darts every week because you're going to get in their head. If you turn up with their darts every single week against them.
I can confirm that he did turn up with a player's darts in last year's Premier League, and the player in question wasn't best pleased.
Exactly. You're going to absolutely rattle them if you do that. And that if you are going to keep switching, do that.
Right. It is, I know we're going off, but it's what we do. If a player does that and uses another player's signature darts, do you think they should ask just out of respect and courtesy and just say, look, I'm going to use your darts this week?
No,
absolutely not. I think there's absolutely no. Yeah. I think because you'd have to work out if it's theirs or even. And let's be honest, is it an endorsed set? Is it
Yeah,
doesn't matter.
I literally just turned up and put a bit of marker pen around the bit where it had their name written on it.
I couldn't. Yeah, I just think you can just throw whatever you want. If they're for sale, if they're custom, and you've done some dodgy. You've done some dodgy dealings and some funny handshakes with the bloke that manufactured the darts, and the manufacturers have done, then I think that's a very different story. I think if they're for sale and you can buy them online or in a shop, then you're entitled to them, regardless of whose name's on the box.
If you are going to use those, have you got to turn up and use the Argos version rather than the proper version?
No, the rule should be if you throw their darts, you also have to wear their shirt.
Yeah.
Ultimate shite-hazzery.
Yeah. If you throw their darts, you have to wear their shirt. That's the rule.
I can't wait to see Peter Wright rock up to play Nathan Aspinall, having also had to shave his hair down to a number 2 short back and sides.
The difficulty with Peter Wright is he'd have to change his shirt between legs. He'd have to come back out after the break with a Michael Van Gerwen shirt on.
We've gone off on a massive tangent here, and you've still not decided what darts he's going to use yet.
He's going to use the elements. He wins 6-4.
Okay, fine.
There you go. Mast nailed. So, gentlemen, from your selections, I would like your finalists and who wins. Chat room as well. Get involved.
So I predict
Right.
using one 12-gram Stephen Bunting dart, one 32-gram Ryan Phil dart, and one of his own pixels, Luke Littler wins.
Who's he playing in the final?
I feel I can't go. He will play Rob Cross in the final, obviously.
Okay, I like it. I think that Gezi beats Michael Smith in the final.
Oh, nice pick.
I think Luke Humphreys beats Luke Littler in the final.
I like it.
So that is this week's Premier League. We've got a couple of talking points in the chat room as well. We will come on to that. The new Luke Littler cereal advert with the Sidemen.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere, didn't it? It wasn't what I expected to see over the weekend at Minehead, along with a couple of other things that we saw over the weekend at Minehead, which I'm sure we'll get onto in a minute as well. But yeah, it wasn't the sort of what I just never really saw it coming, but I'm all for it, and I think it could bring a lot of new faces to darts as well, to be fair.
Well, that's that last line that you said there, Cam, I think is the most important thing for us to focus on. You know, and I get there are loads of people springing to the defence of Luke Littler and want him shielding from various different other things. And I fully agree with 90% of what's said. I also know that there's some there's some people, in fact, I'm going to rein that word in completely. I'm not even sure if that's all right after 9 o'clock. There's some people that have been seen behaving in a particular way in the last week that doesn't shed the greatest of lights on darts. But darts is in a period of rapid growth at the moment. There are more people that know about what's going on in darts than ever before. There are more people who are able to name dart players that couldn't name dart players 12 months ago. And I think things like this only push that on further. I think it's very easy. And I know there are loads of different ways of saying, well, shouldn't be like this and it shouldn't be like that. You have to remember is the more sponsorship opportunities that come to darts and the more people that watch it, the more money there is in earning potential for players. And I guarantee you there is a trickle down. Like if over the course of the next 3 years, we see more and more major sponsorships coming into darts and the viewership of darts increasing, thus increasing the television revenue and the advertising revenue and everything else, there will be a trickle down to the rest of the 128 and the various other systems and structures under which darts exists. It is good for the sport. I do sometimes worry, specifically for Luke Littler, that there will be too much on one set of shoulders. I am fairly well informed that he's very well looked after in terms of that and how he is protected from the various different things that he could or couldn't be exposed to. But I just think the more big, major eyes on darts and sponsorship opportunities that come it will just help grow the sport, and there will be undoubtedly a trickle-down effect, and the entire tour will benefit from it.
No, I agree. Scott, I've got no issue with addressing it. I haven't got a problem with it, if I'm being brutally honest. I don't want players to be nice all the time and happy and smile when they lose. I want them to care.
I had a point on this, Phil, and I'm sorry to jump over you there, Cam, but we saw at the weekend, and I'm just looking at an example, right? Because there's been some absolute bollocks posted this week about Luke Littler's reaction to when Luke Littler makes a mistake. Luke Littler isn't stamping his feet and being petulant when his opponent takes a checkout out. That is absolutely not what's happening. Luke Littler has had slight, very millisecond moments where he's been frustrated at something he's done. I encourage anybody to watch Erling Haaland's miss in the Manchester derby at the weekend and watch the reaction of everybody, players, coaches, managers, supporters, people in the pub, to that miss.
Yeah.
And you cannot tell me that a 17-year-old isn't entitled to show a millisecond of frustration when he makes a mistake.
No, fully agree. Like,
bollocks. It's ridiculous.
It's like, of course he's going to do.
And then me getting pushed Sky Sports News messages because of that.
Yeah, it's just, it's ridiculous. Like, he's 17. I mean, 17, if I cocked up in that, doing something that I know I should have done right, it's more likely that all 3 darts of mine are in the wall, never mind just a little bit of a petulant slap of his hands or sort of admonishing himself a little bit. I just think it's just a ridiculous expectation that he's not going to get frustrated at any point. And it just comes back to that phrase, though. You show me a good loser, you show me a loser, and that's all you're showing me.
Yeah. I don't want him to be nice all the time.
No, I think there's also a view as well that all of a sudden, in about June last year, Luke Littler started playing darts matches, and he was dead good at it. I think there is genuinely a lack of understanding, although I can't understand how the hell it happens, that he's not played thousands of darts matches. And I think that people don't seem to get that he's played thousands of darts matches, and he's had thousands of times where he's shook his opponent's hand after the game.
Yeah.
It's just that all of a sudden people think he's brand new to this. And I know he's a natural talent, but this lad's played an awful lot of darts, even for someone of his age.
It's like when people try to jump on him for not giving Michael a fist bump before that final leg at 5 apiece. Like, it wasn't a conscious decision for him to not go and shake his hand. He's just in the moment he's prepared, and he's completely forgotten. Like,
yeah, it's just like, look, he's missed 2 darts at double 10. He's back at his table. He's pissed off with himself. Good. I want to see that. Shows he cares.
Because it's about the first time since he's rocked up on television that he's missed 2 darts at double 10. Of course, he's going to be frustrated.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I haven't got an issue with it.
For some reason, it doesn't apply in other sports. Why am I not getting Sky Sports updates that say boxer frustrated? Why do I go? Why do I not get them? Footballer frustrated after missing penalty. No shit. My God. Wow. Not news.
Yeah. Love the darts. Fully expect Bo to play at Lakeside. Also, we saw today from the new sponsor launch, we're going to have a new MVG shirt in Brighton. I like it as well.
It looks very nice. I was having a look at
Michael. I'm a fan.
Yeah. No, I'm a fan of it as well. I thought he sort of steadily, from when he turned up with just the complete plain shirt that he started with, he's just steadily, just every few years, and not all the time, and not bringing out a new shirt all the time, but just steadily making it a little bit more interesting all the time.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I'm with you. Look, like in any sport, darts is getting bigger, so there are more eyes on it. So let's talk about, there's a couple of negatives from the week as well. First of all, let's go to Belgium. The video surfaced of Kim Huybrechts not covering himself in glory. I know he's spoken about it since, and he's sorry for it and everything like that, but not a good look, boys.
No, he didn't come out of it with a lot of credit, did he?
No, it's difficult. That's it. It's difficult no matter what you do in life. It's very difficult to act or to say things like that. I also think, and I don't know if there is a language and culture barrier in that the points of reference are slightly different. I simply don't know. I don't really know the context in which he's been taken. And you, like, both of you can probably shed some light on it to me, because I whilst I read and saw bits, what was the context in which it came out? Has he said it publicly to somebody, or has someone shared something that he said in confidence?
No, so I don't know.
Most of the stuff I said to Cam in the last week and get me sacked, but
Yeah, on me.
Yeah, so look, there was obviously a falling out between them, and it kicked off after a Pro Tour. Now, obviously, that video was taken at the time. It's obviously come out now for a reason, because it's been dealt with by the DRA.
Yeah.
So it's obviously it's come out, and I think it was 1,500 quid. Kim's been fined. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't know this, by the way, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was also some kind of suspended sentence over his head as well for that, because it wasn't a good look. We're still waiting for the DRA notes. They're not out officially.
Yeah, we've only had sort of the press pickup of it that tells us that he's had a fine. I assume we would have seen that already if there had been, but
yeah, no, I checked the DRA website again. There's nothing out yet.
Yeah, it does. It would surprise me a little bit if there isn't off the back of it, but
and
it's not goal, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, it's the other one that is obviously all over social media. We touched on Luke at the weekend. The other one was we touched on Leighton Bennett at the Dev Tour last week. Not covering himself in much glory at the moment, is he?
No, that's putting it mildly after the videos. What we did say when we were discussing it in the car on the way back yesterday was that he is like, he's doing what numerous 18-year-old lads that go out having a beverage would probably do something very similar at that point. However, what he has to realise is he's not just a normal 18-year-old kid. He's playing a sport where there's a lot of eyes on it at the moment, more so than ever. And the problem is these days, someone is always going to have a camera out as well. Where he should probably be a little bit pissed off himself here is the fact that that person that's had a camera out and that it's come from is one of his pals who's dropped him right in it.
Yeah, I have a couple of views on this. One is that, like, I'm all for some tomfoolery, me, and I don't mind people going out and getting pissed up. I do think you should probably try and avoid dropping your pals in the shit. And if they do something stupid, try not and have them crucified for it by making sure the entire world sees it. But at the same time, I think it would be fairly remiss not to say that regardless of the fact that he's 18, he should not be, he should have the general respect for other human beings to not speak to people in takeaways with the sort of language he did in the way that he did, and then to be waving his ass all around in the street with his old man out, I think is probably a level of disrespect to the rest of society that I find moderately objectionable. Because for me, this isn't like an 18-year-old getting pissed and acting a bit of a dick and someone's had to chuck him out of a nightclub. Like, this is the sort of behaviour that, if in reality, if he does that in a town centre, he's going to get arrested for. Like, it's stuff, it's drunken, disorderly behaviour. And if he does that in a town centre, he's getting locked up for it. And no one is going to say, oh, it's a scandal, no, it's fucking stupid behaviour. And he should rightly be reprimanded for it. I do think his mates have let him down because they've dropped him in the shit, and he'd have probably got away with it had it not been for the fact that someone's decided to stick the video on it, and then that video's ended up where the world's seen it.
If you do say that video of it, it's got to stay in the lads' group chat, hasn't it? It stays in your own personal group chat and it doesn't go anywhere else. But like you say, at the end of the day, dropped himself in it is the right word by dropping.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's a bit of me. I've spent some time when I was a young man dealing with loads of drunk people in nightclubs and pubs.
You spent some time dealing with one on
yeah, I spent my fucking weekend. I felt like I was a bouncer again. And I struggle to sympathise with people. I sympathise with anyone that goes out and has a drink and gets, takes it too far and someone needs to shove them in a taxi. I think no one's done that. What it does tell me is that nobody's looking out for him. No. He hasn't, no one's looking out for him because that's where he's ended up. Like, that's the state he's ended up in, where he's in a pizza shop talking to people and saying things like that. Like, and then the video where he's outside in the street. Like, it's behavior that's difficult to excuse, regardless of what you've put into your body to make you do that.
Well, yeah, look, this is the thing that you summed on there. It's not just a case of getting drunk and being a dick. There's lines you don't cross.
Yeah, and he's not got lost trying to find his apartment in Minehead, has he? Like no. I did, because all the apartments look the same. What he's done is
he's offending people who are just doing their job. They're at work, and he's saying horrifically inappropriate things to them, and then waving his cock about in the street. Like, it's dead difficult to justify and say that's okay, because it isn't.
Yeah.
Now, what I would have expected, and I will maybe go more towards the fact is I don't know who the hell's looking after him, but we haven't had an apology. Have we had an apology? Have we had a recognition?
No, I don't think so. Not as
that was a bit shit. I'll try not to do that again. Like, I don't know if we've had anything like that.
Well, no, I haven't seen anything. But let's be fair, with his Dev Tour performance, shall we say, and then this, it's going to be an expensive learning curve for the young man once the authorities deal with it.
Yep, that Christmas party is going to be a good one.
That's only if the authorities within DARTS are the only people that decide to take action on him. Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of evidence in the public eye at the minute of him committing multiple public order offences, and I'd be really surprised if at some point he didn't get a knock on the door just to teach him a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. He's
going to find it hard to argue against, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to be able to say, I'm sorry, officer, I wasn't drunk and disorderly in that kebab shop.
There's very little defence that he's going to be able to put forward for it.
That's what I'm like all the time.
Yeah. Adam, those videos weren't from before he had a card.
Nope.
Unfortunately, I wish they were, but
there's still no justification for it, whether it's before or after. To be honest, he still deserves the same punishment for it.
He still acted a knob.
Yeah,
with his knob.
With his knob is the point. Yeah,
snobbery is what he's done. He's
committed gross knobbery about in the most literal sense.
Yeah, he's committed gross knobbery.
Yeah, but look. It will all come out once it's been dealt with, and we'll see what the punishment is, shall we say? But like we say,
so just before you move on, Phil, what shocked me there, and I had to read the rest of it. But Sam just put in the chat room, I'm surprised that Hendo, Scott Mitchell, and Beaton haven't been mentioned, and I assumed he was linking it to our previous conversation about Leighton Bennett.
Yeah,
and I just thought. Is there more videos I haven't seen?
Yeah.
Look, Sam. Look, it's hard to mention everyone for the UK Open. Is the thing? We only got a short space of time, but time will tell what happens with that one. Busy week ahead. First Euro Tour of the year as well. Excited for that. Obviously, we've got no draw or anything yet, but buzz in the Euro Tour is back.
Absolutely. I love me a Euro Tour, and I am looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. And look, Belgium went off last year as well. It might go off this year with the players as well. But
I was going to say, Belgium went off a few times by the sound of things.
I think
we've not even mentioned Mike Dedeker's mum yet.
But now there, Phil, when you started this all those years ago, there's a sentence you never thought that they'd be said out loud on this stream, did you? We've not even mentioned Mike Dedeker's mum yet. There's a sentence.
No.
I tell you what, now that the sidemen are becoming involved in darts, and we're seeing the serial sponsorship, surely there's got to be, and we've got prime candidates for it at the moment, a Misfits boxing darts special.
Straight in.
Well,
we'd be right.
Misfits boxing.
Cam and I be on the front row.
Darts edition. First up, Belgium.
Yeah, first up, the Belgian Royal Rumble.
Well, funny you should say that, because I did kind of have a conversation about Misfit darts at the weekend and some of the ideas that we could do. I'm all up for the darts tag match and things.
Yeah.
Obviously the Royal Rumble that we'd love as well. There's something that could be done with this, which could be interesting.
Kim against Wayne Rooney, Sam. That's a cracking fight. Like that is,
field, to be fair, isn't it? That's a bit of a.
I'm thinking a triple threat match: Kim, Dimitri, and Mike Dedeker inside a steel cage.
Well, that in terms of darts, though, every now and again someone asks for a random, what sort of darts tournament do we want? Do we want a 1001? I can't believe we've still not seen triple threat darts.
Yeah,
you make the bull off part of the TV, because of course that's going to have a huge difference.
Yeah, first, second, and third, it's massive, isn't it?
So you make bulling off a feature and you start triple threat darts, or you seed it and you have people going first, second, and third based on seedings. So you have a match with someone in the top 10, top 20, top 30. And you seed them first, second, and third in where they go, and you have a triple threat. These are the things that keep me awake at night, this sort of thing.
To be fair, there's legs for this, because we could have Gezi Price giving Kirk Bevins a stunner when he doesn't like his decision, but he overstepped the hockey.
Yeah, or like,
Phil,
that point's not actually touching the board, sir. It's just.
I'm not convinced that didn't happen at one point in that nightclub in Minehead. I'm sure I saw Bevins on the receiving end of at least a rock bottom at some point. There was definitely
there was all sorts going on in there.
Yeah, forget Vegas. What goes on in Minehead?
Yeah, exactly.
But in a serious note, I'm actually looking forward to the World Cup just for Team Belgium right now, because I'm not sure any of them are getting on.
No, exactly. Like there is a big case that none of them, whichever combination of them it is, that none of them are still going to speak to each other at any point.
Well, I'm waiting for one of them to do the old football. I'm waiting for one of them to do the Andy Townsend and find they've got a French uncle. And declare that actually Dimitri Vandenberg's grandma was born in just outside of Bordeaux, and he's actually entitled to play for France. And that all of a sudden we'll find people like they do in various other sports, switching nations.
I can't believe you've just mentioned Dimitri Vandenberg's grandparents and mentioned his grandma rather than his grandfather.
Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a tough 2 years.
Mark says, I hope you were dancing to Queen Jovi on Saturday night.
Oh, I loved Queen Jovi. I tried to book them for the wedding.
I was going to say, if you want to know, Mark, how much we enjoyed Queen Jovi, I almost forced Cameron to engage with them to see if they could play his wedding, because because we were very into Queen Jovi. I'm not a Scar fan. We didn't bother at all on the Sunday night, so we didn't do Madness and the specials, but we were there for every little guitar lick of Queen Jovi. That was tremendous.
We were. I've not managed to get it past the future Mrs. McFarlane yet. She's not keen to go with Queen Jovi. We're still on a DJ at the moment.
Just don't tell her and just book it over her head. And once you're married, she turns up. Too late then.
Well, to be fair, mate, yeah. Do you not remember how it happened in my head? It's just a black curtain, isn't it? And all of a sudden,
it's just
too late, then, isn't it? By the time they're halfway through Bohemian Rhapsody, there's nothing she can do about it.
There's a potential for an annulment at that point. I think is good. But to be fair, if someone for it to be an annulment, someone has to look at that in the courts and say, "Look, I'm sorry, but there is no grounds here. Queen Jovi are excellent, so you can't have an annulment based on that."
Stands up that.
Yeah, all day long. A good lawyer, not a problem with that at all.
Be fine.
I'm fully there. Remember, everyone. Well, let's open question time as well. So get your questions in, everyone, whilst we continue the old Queen Jovi thing. I must admit, I didn't see any of them because I was working.
Well, one of us had to be, didn't he?
I was going to say, someone had to keep the ship on course while the rest of us were off on the.
Mind you, thanks everyone. Insane numbers from the UK Open, so thank you very much for that, everyone. If you haven't yet, make sure you drop us a like and a cheeky little subscribe as well. Never goes astray.
Also, if you are going,
Sid's got that spot on there in the chat. That was the word that was used. It was at my wedding, not at our wedding.
What we are going to do next year, if you, because I noticed there's loads of people in the chat room who were there, like, that we didn't see. Like, there are people. What was really good is there were people who all weekend, and Cam will back me up on this, remarkably, who genuinely did approach us and say hello and say, like, we watched this and we watched that, and it was genuinely quite beautiful for all of us to just think that there are people out there that, you know, listen to us talk nonsense and enjoy it in some capacity. But we are going to do something next year where, because we've all rebooked to go back again. So what we're going to do?
Common knowledge now.
Oh,
not in our house.
Mr. Simpson, Mr. Simpson, what have you done?
Not in our house. It's not.
There's a certain plastic Irishman that's banging trouble now.
But we are. I know. See, I'll take the flack only because others will get it harder than me for that announcement. But what we are going to do next year is we're going to pick a time and a part of the venue to try and get together with as many people as possible who do tune in on the regular.
Can you get me directions there? Otherwise, I might get lost again.
Yeah, we'll put Cam on his reins. We'll make sure he makes it there. But because it was really lovely over the course of the weekend that every now and again someone gave us a little tap on the shoulder and said, like, that they enjoyed tuning in, and they were asking where's Phil and where's Jar and it was really cool. But we're just going to pick a time next year, probably between an afternoon and an evening session, where we say, right, at 5 o'clock, we're all going to jump into this place here, and everyone that's there that joins in and gets in the chat room, let's just all get into one place for an hour and have a bit of crack, because it was great this weekend just to catch up with everyone.
Yeah, no, I'm well up for that. That's superb. I like this one. We can do this one because we're wrestling. If you could take 5 players,
I'm going to take a leave for a second here because I couldn't.
Time for you to go and have a Simon Whitlock.
Yes, yeah.
If you could take five players walk-ons and change them to wrestling theme songs, who are you changing? Oh,
well, I can't. I mean, Gezi immediately just gets Cody's.
Yeah.
And Chris Dobie, just because I still can't make me peace with any walk-on song other than that one night in Newcastle at the Premier League, gets just the best entrance one that I can think of. And he gets Cult of Personality by Living Colour.
Yeah.
Because it's good.
Rob Cross gets Seth Rollins. Burn it down.
Yeah, that'd be good. I don't dislike that. Who comes out flying? Who could?
Luke Littler gets Shane McMahon. Here comes the money.
Yes. Oh, to be fair, I reckon there's 10 that we could give Luke Littler. Luke Littler could also come out to Vince McMahon's No Chance in Hell. Without a doubt, he could come out with that. James, the Edge's theme by Alter Bridge is what I used at the weekend to wake Mr. McFarlane when he fell asleep in the car.
I think that was the point where I fell asleep, to be honest.
Yeah, Danny. So I always wanted, and I don't know why it didn't happen, when Danny Baggish got his card and Danny Baggish was at World Championships and put a tweet out saying, "What should I have for my entrance music?" The fact that he didn't use Hulk Hogan's "I Am a Real American" is a complete no-brainer to me. That
also old school. Cameron Menzies is coming out to Roddy Piper.
Oh, I'd have that. Yeah. That's not too bad.
On the same kind of theme, but Cam can get involved in this one. 3 players that need a makeover.
Peter Wright.
We talked about
it's gone too long now.
We were talking about
this the other day. Look, do you think that Peter Wright is potentially bored of Snakebite and just wants to play darts as Peter Wright?
Correct. Yeah,
if he just wants to play darts, he's going to have to rebrand as Gary Anderson. Right. Yeah, I think that's my first one.
I feel like I could be. Every time I don't like offending people. Every time I go to say something, I think, "Oh, that's a bit unkind."
You just go with the one that you've already offended, then.
Who have I offended so far?
Actually, it's quite a list.
No, all right. So here we go. And it's controversial. Dimitri van den Bergh, primarily his shirt is bloody horrible.
He's great.
The worst shirt in darts. It's a horrible.
We sat in a Costa waiting for your car to charge and had a good 10-minute conversation about.
I did 10 minutes trying to work out what the color in the middle of that was. And I ended up pointing at buildings that were around us, looking at like beigey concrete.
Bear in mind, we were in Stoke at this point. The buildings were a grey beige colour.
We were in Stoke, and I saw we were in Stoke at the time, and I saw it's sort of the colour of Stoke, isn't it? It's just like a sort of concrete-y beige. I'm not. So definitely, Dimitri van den Bergh needs a new dart shirt. If you class that as a makeover. Who else needs a makeover?
Yeah, I could go with that.
And I would also say, and this is definitely because I have no issue at all with his current look, but if I picked someone that I thought could be escalated into the modern world, and I know a lot about modern haircuts, as you both know, is that I think Ryan Searle could go with a man bun.
And walking on to Mysterious Searle.
Yeah, and walking on to Mysterious Searle, yeah.
If he'd have to go do it full though, if he's going to do that and literally go for the tan, cut his hair short, come on,
he's the only one.
Wet, like get the walk on out full of water.
He's the only one that's got enough hair that you can do something with. Like you have to, but I think he could go full like Love Island man bun.
Yeah,
I don't disagree. Thoughts on Louis Williams this week? Tom, if I'm being honest, I haven't seen any of the Super Series. But look, Louis had a tough time. He's just trying to play himself back into some form. It will come. He's had some time away. He's had some stuff going on, so he'll get there. Adam, can't wait for it. We'll talk about that more later on. Yes, he does finish the story. What else have we got? If you could experience any darts moment live in a venue, what would it be? What if we're going back in time to experience one? Oh,
that is some question.
Endurance Premier League, but only it would be full of people, and I'd be right at the front.
If I could go back and be in the venue for one moment, what would it be?
Glendor winning the Premier League. Easy question.
Yeah, I think I'd have to go with Nathan Aspinall's 170 to win the UK Open, because then I'd get the full experience of the weekend as well, but then get to see that at the end.
Oh, there's some good ones here.
Yeah, 2 9 dark legs in the Premier League final of 2010 is a good shout. I tell you what,
The other thing is,
the 17 perfect darts from Michael van Gerwen, that I bet that was an incredible moment to be a part of.
If we can manipulate time in a sense that I can be put into a place where I wasn't, can we manipulate it enough that the thing would then happen somewhere else and just make all the nice moments? I'll be watching them and they'll be in the Winter Gardens in Blackpool.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Mark's gone with the 2 dinosaurs being chased by a fox on Sunday night. that was, to be fair, as moments go, that was pretty good, to be fair. Yeah, as well as at Queen Jovi on Friday night with Pikachu bouncing around in there as well.
Yeah,
and not Ricardo Francesco, unless he was inside of the costume. I don't know.
I agree with that. Phil Taylor's last time at Blackpool.
Yeah. See, I told you the Winter Gardens needed to be pivotal.
Yeah.
Winter Gardens is important, man.
Oh, 100%. It's just iconic, isn't it?
See, I think what we've come up with in the chat room here, it's sort of an almost dream scenario where we have to combine things. What we need to do, we need to be in the match play while Bob Anderson leads a horse out with Phil Taylor on it. Where Phil Taylor referees Michael Smith and Michael van Gerwen both throwing 9s. It's like this perfect dart scenario.
First PDC 9 dark leg, Taylor, mate. Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what. There's a game I remember watching on TV, and I still go and watch it on YouTube now, that I wish I was there. And this is outside the box a little bit, but it's still one of the greatest games ever. Was Mace against Martin Adams at Lakeside.
Yeah, go with that.
Still to this day, one of the greatest games ever. But I also am a fan of the Bob Anderson horse. Not going to lie.
Yeah.
That is right up there. Right, last couple of questions then, folks, before we wrap up, because we're all still recovering through some sleep. Before we go, we've got interviews dropping this week, one with Mace, one with MVG, and I am sitting down with Mr. Primetime himself, Matthew Edgar, on Saturday. So plenty coming up. So make sure you drop us a like, subscribe, and turn notifications on. Thank you very much for the numbers on the Luke Humphreys interview, everyone. Through the roof.
We got anything else? Sleep, what's that? Mark, you are correct. Sleep, what is that? Because I've not had much of that for the last.
We very much don't know, Mark. We're all three of us are probably a week detached from a reasonable night's sleep.
Yeah, it was. I think it was last Tuesday. Was the last time I actually had a decent sleep.
Yeah, it was the last time I was in my own bed because I travelled to yours on Wednesday.
You did, and we stayed up playing darts until 2:30 because we thought we've not got enough late nights coming up for the next few days.
I still think we should probably, as a group, tweet out the screenshot of the scores.
I don't think we should at all. I think that's a ridiculous idea.
Does Luke win a Euro Tour?
Yes.
That was resounding.
Luke and Gary both win Euro Tours this year.
Yes, I'm all for that.
Ooh. That would be a European. That would be a European Championship final I'd watch.
Oh,
yeah, it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we transport to a future moment where that happens?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go back to the last question.
In the match play, in the Winter Gardens, Cam, it has to be the Winter Gardens.
Yes,
the
Blackpool
fantasy, it's the
Eurozone.
Winter Gardens, and it's Gary against Luke in the final.
Okay, in 2024, we're here now. Could you imagine if the match play semi-final lineup they can play whoever they want, but they're all playing well? MVG, Anderson, Littler, and who else are we chucking in there? Gezi, all playing well. Could you imagine if that was the final four and they're all going at it hammer and tong?
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Get me there.
Just take my money now. Just take it
when I was
now.
going to say get me there, I'm going. I've got tickets. I'm going.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
I'm going. Friday, quarters and semis. I'm going.
But everyone, thank you very much for joining us. We know we're 24 hours late. We will be back on Monday next week, back to normal. But thank you very much for your continued support, everyone. Remember, last time, drop us a like and subscribe. I've been Phil Barrs. Tonight, we've been joined by Dan and Cam. So thank you very much, gentlemen. That is us signing off. Remember, the Fallout Bar will return on Thursday after the action in Brighton. And we will see you all very, very soon.